Welcome to All Things Financial with Jack Driscoll. Each week, Jack takes on all things you thought were hard to understand about your finances and makes it fun, easy, but most of all interesting. From insurance to the best way to save your money and squeeze the most out of the dollars you put aside for your rainy day. And now, you have a friend in the money business. Here's your host, Jack Driscoll.
Welcome back again to another edition of All Things Financial. What I wanted to go over today, I happened to be thinking and going through some articles about so many various areas that most of us never think about, dealing with insurance, things that can go wrong, protection, and we just really go along our lives never really giving any of these issues any thought. So what I wanted to do today is try to pique your interest in some areas in your own lives that you might be opening yourselves up and exposing yourselves to risks that are not covered right now if anything goes wrong. I mean, like baseball, little league games, and if you're going ice skating or skiing in the winter, and if you're a member of a community organization or on the board of directors, or running any risks at all where you don't even know you're running the risks. You know, they say ignorance is bliss, but a lot of times what happens is you never know of a real risk until someone has a complaint or assesses any lawsuit against you. You're just driving down the road and you happen to not see the bicyclist or the motorcycle, and all of a sudden your life just turned upside down. Well, what I want to do as a part of financial planning on this show of All Things Financial is discuss today a lot of areas that I've never touched on this show. Different areas in a person's life that those of you listening and watching the video might say, wait a minute, I'm doing those very things, those activities, or my kids are, and they went to school, they're in college, they're in athletics. We never thought of these things. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a show on this, and I'm going to try to make you aware of some of the areas that you have risks that are so easy to solve if you think about them in advance, and impossible to solve if you wait and then something goes wrong and it's too late to protect yourselves. Where it's so simple in many cases. You have a recreational vehicle, motorcycle, quad, anything like that. Your kids are active. And all of these things in areas of your life can be protected with such simplicity and many times very little cost, just by evaluating the types of policies you already have and are paying for. So that brings me to my first point, and that is when you compare your policies that you now have and are paying for. What I mean by that are your car insurance and your home insurance, things like this. And when you compare, as we many times do, we're taught to compare apples for apples. So we say, I want a price on apples to apples. And I, as a professional advisor, say, who chose the apples to begin with? Because what I'm finding is, in life, most people's policies, coverages, are never changed. So whoever set your first coverages in place, in force, the snowballing effect of all the policies and policy comparisons for the rest of your lives, and I'm using this as an extreme example, and also in your businesses, for the rest of the life of your business, the quality of the coverages, the amount of protection that you've bought is sometimes dependent on the very first agent that you ever met. And every other agent thereafter that, you're handcuffing to, hey, don't make any changes. I want you to quote on exactly what I have right now. And the agent might ask you questions and you might adamantly and firmly say, I don't want any changes. I told you I want, quote, apples to apples. And here the poor agent, especially the professional over a long period of time, realizes, has anyone ever asked you about what you need and done a needs analysis. And here, most consumers would be scared off by that. And oh, you just want more money. You just want extra money out of this, and you're trying to build up the price and get me away from being able to compare something that's firm with the coverages I have now and measurable. You're trying to trick me. Where the professional might actually be saying, wait a minute, we're trying to evaluate your needs and then evaluate what you have in comparison with what you said your needs were. It's a much more professional approach. So then I see some people and companies taking it to the other extreme, the opposite end of the spectrum, saying to people who want to quote, well, I'm not going to show you anything that I have. You tell me what you think I need, and you build the program from scratch. That's equally devastating, because what you're doing there, it is possible that agents along the way have asked some questions, like on your homeowners, by the way, do you have any jewelry? And they might have scheduled jewelry on your policy 15 years ago that you forgot even about. And if you get an agent, if they at least compare, they might identify things on your policy that you forgot to tell this new agent about. Or you business owners might have directors and officers coverage, or you might have hired a non-owned auto, or whatever the exposure is that an agent might have uncovered years ago. And you're telling a new agent now, okay, in one meeting or two meetings, you have to know everything there is to know about me and my business and my history, and quote on exactly what I need. Well, obviously, you might be putting yourself up and setting yourself up for failure, because this new agent might come in far lower premiums than what you're paying now. And you'll think, boy, that old agent, they're ripping me off. Where in fact, the new agent, because you didn't show them any coverages, might just be missing a lot. So, my advice in the very first step on this insurance policy comparisons. Number one, comparing apples to apples, going to find the cheapest price, the best price you can for exactly what you have. I'm going to tell you either extreme is bad, because if the new agent is just quoting exactly what you have, taking the information and coverages, not asking many questions about it, and simply quoting on whatever it is you have without addressing your needs, that can be very devastating, as you can imagine. You might have coverage that's woefully inadequate for the exposures you have. 10 or 15 years ago, you might not have been on any community associations. You might not have been on any board of directors. Your kids might not have been in intercollegiate sports or have gone away to college. They may have been infants at that time. Now your needs have changed, your lives have changed, but your policies haven't. So you're still comparing apples to apples, mirror imaging on everything that was 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. And again, the opposite mistake being true, hiding your policies from the new agent puts them at such a disadvantage, or maybe you at such a disadvantage, by not allowing the agent to professionally review not only what you now have, but also professionally analyze and inquire from you what your current lifestyle is, what your future lifestyle is expected to be, and asking you probing questions on your needs analysis. In addition, comparing what you now have as a base policy, base structure of coverages in combination with analysis of your needs, that might help you provide much better coverage and protection for your family and your business. Now, what are we buying insurance for? Most people that I talk to, most businesses that I talk to, I think are under the misconception we're buying insurance to get the cheapest premium that we can get for the coverage we now have. So you know where I'm going with this. That can't make the most sense. But we forget as business owners, we forget as individuals, there's only one reason we should extend $1 out of our pocket and give it to an insurance agent or company. And you know what that reason is, in my opinion? Because the value of whatever's being provided to us is greater than the value of each dollar that we pass across to that agent or company. So what am I getting at? I'm getting at you're buying protection. You're buying, transferring your risk and transferring the risk of liability that you now have in either your business or yourselves individually. You're sliding those dollars across the desk, along with the paper, which is the application for insurance. You're transferring your risk to the insurance company in areas that you feel the risk is too great for you to assume on your own. So you're looking for a partner. You're looking for help. So that brings me back to shopping for insurance. You're actually choosing a partner. Be very careful with this, because if I tell you to go out and shop for cars, and I say to you, my criteria, the car must have 4 wheels, tires, a steering wheel, seats, I could come back with a whole range of cars. You're not specific enough in your criteria. So when I go to an insurance company and I say, I want the exact same thing that I have right now, but what your criteria is, I have $100,000 liability coverage, I have a $500 deductible. The smallest insurance company versus the largest insurance company, to you look the same. But obviously when you probe deeper, there's a big difference between a Mercedes and a Kia. That doesn't make one of them better or worse, but it does certainly make them different. And why would a person spend so much more out of their budget for the same thing as they could get so much less? Well, the reality is it's not the same thing. It's exactly the same in insurance. When you get an international, multinational, conglomerate insurance carrier versus a regional, local insurance carrier, providing you with the same list of coverage maximum benefits, you do not have the same things, folks. If you're hit with a lawsuit, one of the companies may have a team of specialized attorneys in every city, every major city, and maybe every minor city in the country, and not only that, all around the world. And another company, and claims offices, by the way, of their own employees, their own staffed claims offices all around the world, as opposed to maybe a small regional carrier who may be equally as good. I'm not saying that, but they may be different, and you must recognize those differences because their premiums will reflect those differences in many cases. The smaller regional might have to outsource to other attorney firms in other areas of the countries or other states even. Not only the United States, it may only be a regional carrier in your own individual state. So even in the other 49 states in the country, a small regional carrier may have to go to outside attorneys, independent claims adjusters, who they really don't control with the same quality criteria control as they might their own employees, who have been trained for years and years on the company way of doing things. So when you shop for insurance and you think you've saved money because you did it yourself, I'm telling you from my years of experience, it's too hard to do yourself. My recommendation is you get and hire an independent insurance agent who represents many companies and can represent your needs, but be able to better evaluate the comparison process of both I'd say independent insurance on individual insurance policies, and for you business owners and HR people, your company insurance policies on a more professional scale. They're able to help identify in many cases the differences that those of you who are not trained would not be able to address or identify, and you would just think you're getting the same thing for the same premium. So I wanted to talk to you about all of that, and then the last point I'll make before the break is when you're shopping for coverage, please remember you're buying insurance for the time of claim, not for every year you're paying a renewal. So you don't have an insurance policy, and that I know most people don't think about. I have an insurance policy. It's too expensive. The thing you have to look at, and many of you won't, so you're going to have to trust an independent agent to do it for you, is you're going to need to evaluate what protections do I need that I feel I can't handle myself in either business or individual lives. If someone slips and falls on my property, if I'm out golfing and I hit someone, or my ball goes astray and hits an oncoming car, if I hit someone in front of us in a foursome, if I'm skiing and I swerve in front of someone else, I'm out of control, if I'm on a board of directors in an association, I make a decision that turns out to be wrong, we cancel an event because of weather related, and we get sued for $100,000 because the vendor says we had so much invested in the commitment for all the food that they had to prepare for the event in advance, and here you get sued for that. So many things can go wrong. You want to evaluate your own personal lives and your own business lives and say, what are the things we're most scared of? And write them down. Say, these are the things that could hurt us the most, and we want to transfer that liability, that risk to someone else, or at least to share the risk with us, that if anything happens in these areas, that we'll have someone else paying the legal costs, we'll have someone else already providing the attorneys who are skilled in this area, they already have on staff, and who will pay the judgment or the benefits if we're deemed to have committed a liability or something went wrong that they're skilled in handling. That's how we sleep at night. And that's the only thing you should be looking at when you're first shopping for insurance. What risks are you looking to transfer? What coverages are you looking to purchase that if in the event of any of those claims or misfortunes happen to you, that you've taken care of your business and yourselves individually in advance by paying a premium to bring a partner on board to handle those risks for you. And that's the only thing that should be first and foremost in your mind when you begin shopping for insurance. Okay, folks, let's take a break and we'll be right back.
If you're a business owner or an independent contractor, you know the cost of doing business. You have your equipment, your personnel, advertising costs, and doing everything you can to outdo the competition. But do you run your business, or does your business run you? Your business is truly an investment. Is that investment insured? Jack Driscoll is here to help. At Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services, he provides complete business planning services ranging from property insurance programs to disability, life, hospitalization, and long-term care programs. He not only designs insurance protection plans tailored for your business and protects what is already built, but strives to strengthen your business through providing employee benefit and group programs. It's through this unique combination of skills that Jack has become a valuable resource for business owners and managers. Educate yourself first by going to DriscollFinancial.com and clicking on Business Insurance, or give Jack a call at 412-833-1500. Your business and your employees need you to be prepared, and you need to be protected. Log on to DriscollFinancial.com or call 412-833-1500. Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services. Insure for today. Invest for tomorrow.
Okay, folks, let me give you an example of what I mean when I say we're going to shop for coverages, and the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to open up your own policies. Well, wait a minute, before we do that, I want you to write down on a piece of paper, before we open anything, write down on a piece of paper the coverages that you now have. Now, come on, folks. You've been paying for these coverages for long enough. You can surely write down some basic coverages on your own car insurance, on your own home insurance policies, and for your business owners, your basic coverages that you now have. What do you mean you can't figure out anything on your sheet? You can't even figure the first thing out. Start listing down with something you do know. That would probably be on your car insurance, the deductibles, because you probably do know those. But if I ask you, do you have, and I wouldn't normally ask you because I want this to be a essay test on a blank sheet of paper, how much liability coverage do you have? Do you have bodily injury or property damage coverage? Do you have uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage? Do you have medical insurance? Do you have towing and labor? Do you have collision? Do you have comprehensive? Do you have full tort or limited tort? When I ask those questions, I know some of you are getting nervous. You say, I have no idea. You know what? We go to the homeowners. How much is your home insured for? How much are your contents insured for? Are your computers covered? Are your TVs covered? Are your electronics covered? How about your cell phones? What about if someone slips and falls on your property? Are you covered for if anything happens off your property? Most people, when I ask that question, say, no, it's a homeowner's policy. You know what, folks? Just in even scratching the surface, you could see how complex and complicated this is and how little some of us know about our own coverages that we've been paying year after year after year for. So my first advice, is going to be very obvious. Pull your policies out. Sit down with them, 5 minutes, that's all. And just look at the coverages. Now, I know when I say that, most of you will pull them out and you'll have your homeowner's policy there and you'll have your car insurance policy there. And when I say look at your coverages, you will. And you'll look at a piece of paper on the auto that's called the declarations page, and it will say coverages. And it will say $100, $300, $1,000 for your liability, and it'll say 500 deductibles. When you get to the home, it'll say X dollars for the home insurance limit, the property A, coverage A, the building, coverage C, the contents, 100,000 liability, or whatever the limit is for liability. And I'm going to tell you, you have not looked at any of the coverages yet. And you're going to say, wait, I just did. I just read off all the coverages to you. Guess what, folks? None of those are your coverages. Those are simply your policy limits, your maximum limits of which the company will pay if any of your coverages apply. And you'll say, well, what do I mean? What I mean is, if water backs up in your sewers, am I covered? If I'm driving down the road and I hit a bicyclist, am I covered? Those are your coverages. And they're not found on the declarations page, folks. They're found inside the policy booklet that no one wants to read, including agents. So if you've ever shopped for insurance, and most of us have, and your agent has ever told you, I've given you apples to apples and compared your policies, and you have exactly the same coverages with us that you have right now, and they haven't read your policy booklets or even asked for them? Come on, folks. All they're doing is giving you the maximum limits that match, if indeed they do, and most times we find that doesn't even match. All they've done, and all you've done, if you've done this online, is looked at the maximum policy limits that will apply for any coverages that you are, or any incidents or occurrence that you are covered for that's found in your policy booklet. Then the most they'll pay will be those policy limits shown on your declarations page. Now, I don't know how many years you've been buying business insurance or personal insurance, but I'll bet that's the first time you ever heard that. So after all these years of paying premiums every time you have shopped and switched policies, it is almost with certainty that your coverages have changed from company to company, even if your policy limits didn't, without your knowledge, and in fact, without the new agent's knowledge either, because they never checked them. So I bring these shows on to the air and onto video to try to help educate as to the complexity of how do we shop for insurance, get a professional independent agent and stick with them and let them do all the shopping for you and research. Now when I come back, I'll talk with some miscellaneous areas next week on coverages that you would never even think to insure for, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, and how easy they are to protect yourselves against once a skilled professional, helps you identify the risks that you have and didn't even know. We'll be back again next week, and I want to thank you for tuning in. See you again next week.
You've been listening to All Things Financial with your friend with the answers to all financial matters, Jack Driscoll of Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Sage Point Financial Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer and registered investment advisor and member FINRA and SIPC. Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services is not affiliated with Sage Point Financial, Inc. or registered as a broker, dealer, or investment advisor. You can reach Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services Incorporated at 412-833-1500, and they are located at 2738 South Park Road, Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, 15102.